All right, let me introduce our keynote speaker, Kawi Sana of Ma'o Farms. Just reading from your bio. She was born and raised in Waianae, Hawaii. She's a graduate of Waianae High School and joined Ma'o Farms as an intern, where she learned organic farming practices, food systems, social and food justice, and Aloha Aina practices. Learning Ma'o Organic Farm's core values of love, respect, and the willingness to work, she has been able to apply these values to be a leader in her community and to her family. And I'll pass it over to you, or do we have more welcome slides?
I'll take it away. Thank you. Thank you so much, Julia. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, thanks for
Um,
having us.
hey guys. Aloha everyone. Um, I'm Kawi. Currently the farm manager at Mount Organic Farms. I just have a presentation to show you guys. Um, Really awesome to be able to speak to you guys. And it's to be in a space of where this is the like we have to distance but still somehow make connections with each other. For the past year now, right, we've all had to kind of adjust the way that we learn and how we connect. So I'm really stoked that young people, that you guys are putting this event together, because I really believe in the empowerment of young people to put on events, to lead, and to make decisions and to be creative and innovative and of how you guys want to share your guys' stories or how we share our stories, right? So I'm just gonna share my screen right now. Yeah, we'll go through this together. Oh, all right. Um, I know I'll be kind of busy not seeing the chat in the chat, but please drop any questions in the chat, or any comments, and I would love to respond to back to you guys. But I'm really here um to hopefully set you guys off in like what to me is understanding what is a self-sustaining food system, right? So Ma'o is an acronym from Mala Aiopio, right? And it's like it translates to like the food youth garden. Ma'o has been in the Waianae community in the valley of Lulule for the past 21 years now. And its mission is to grow food and to grow young leaders, yeah, so young people um are a big part of our program. And I was actually a part of that program when I graduated from high school. Wait, let me see. Oh, there we go. Um, Ma'o well, it started off as a 5 acre farm in Lulule. So this is like one of the older pictures of the farm. So it started as a 5 acre farm, just growing food and just kind of starting off with its internships program. So the internship that we're well known for is our youth leadership training program. So it's a 2.5 year commitment that the farm does to young people that are usually that have graduated from college, and we help to um, or they are admitted to Leeward Community College, and we help to pay for their stipend. I mean, we help to pay for their tuition, and with the tuition, they work on the farm for about part-time, about 15 to 18 hours a week depending on what year they're in the program. And when they work on the farm, they're a part of all the operations, from weeding to planting to processing to selling the produce. And they also get a monthly stipend starting at $525 a month, yeah. So when I first came to the farm, these were the one of the images that I kind of grew up seeing on the farm. So this was a painting or a mural that Solomon Enos, he's a local painter, Native Hawaiian painter. He was one of the first interns at Mount Organic Farms when the farm first started, and he, with the crew back then, made these paintings. And every time I stepped in there, it's like the reminder was that our kupuna are watching, right? Um, our um, our ancestors are there to help us, to remind us, and to ground us. So seeing this image for me every day as I was in the internship was super powerful, super helpful. Um, in kind of making sure that I stayed on the right path. Um, when when we go into spaces, we bring our ancestors with us. Um, our own personal ancestors, the bloodline that we come from. But what I started to realize is that we live with our ancestors now. And your ancestors could be um your grandparents, your parents, your aunties, your uncles, community members, church members. These the people that we to me it just reminded that even though we're living in the present, we're all future ancestors. And this guy, William Isla Sr., was a great mentor of ours, and for me, for um kind of understanding who I am, right? And the kuleana that we all have to Aina and to people and to our food system. So his motto that he grew up with was, in order to succeed, um you always must have love, respect, and the willingness to work. So when I came to the farm, he was already in like his mid 60s, and this guy was busting ass like more harder than some of us. Like I'm working and I see him work, I'm like, holy macro, like this guy is nuts. And he was about that hustle. When you hear people talking about the hustle and stuff like that, he was about that hustle, right? So he grew up ranching this valley, like about 200 acres. So it's hard work, right? So it's like um working with goats, working with cows, working with horses. This guy grew up just working hard all his life. And he never got a degree. So he's older, so he only got up to middle school, I think, or like maybe midway through high school, or that he went through high school, but then he told us that he never got a college degree. And he's like, I no more college degree. And he was helping us, helping me and my peers, like, go to college, telling us to go to college, get this, get that. But you know what, when it comes down to it, he's like, I know more in college degree, but I know how to work hard, and I like working hard. He's like, if you always have the willingness for work hard, are willing to work, and you have love, respect, you always gonna have one job. Yeah. So there was like a major there was different perspectives that I was starting to grow up with, like as an 18-year-old, right? As I grew into my adulthood, I guess. um I had this perspective of like making sure that I go to college to get a degree. And then I had this mentor like teaching me, like, you just got to work hard. Whatever you choose to do, you work hard, and you put your love and your respect in it. So just a reminder for all of us, that we're living with our ancestors now. So we have to take those opportunities to um share with them, right? We don't want to wait till somebody's gone, or miss a chance for us to learn together, because that's the beauty, I think, about indigenous knowledges and practices in mo'olelo, in old journals, or as things get passed along, is that it's the integration of generations of how we develop new ideas, right, and new solutions to things. So just really want to hold one of those things for you guys to learn. So this is me when I first started the internship. I was a little fetus, I guess you could say, because kind of going through my day. But this is where I really got to understand and develop relationships and understanding. Sorry, distractors all over the place. So if it gets loud, in Kalamai, I'm in the farm. Um, but the you know I never knew what it meant to be a leader. You see leaders in politics, or you see in social media now, or you see it in movies. So we have different perspectives of what leadership looks like. And what I started to develop and understand for myself was that leadership um can just me being me. You know, me figuring out, me not having a plan, but doing something is leadership for myself, and how I can um support my family and my community members, right? So as I was in the internship, there's a lot of interaction, um, lots of mentorship opportunities for us to learn, and to develop, and to create a safe space for us, right? Um, to have that safe space where we can sit down, reflect, question things, try to understand a little bit more. It's all really critical and important for us to do, especially as young people. So I went to the program, and the farm did help me to get my associates at Leeward Community College. I transferred to UH Manoa, and I got my bachelor's in Hawaiian studies, and everything was paid for through the farm. Like, I didn't have to pay nothing for tuition. I worked on the farm full time after when I transitioned into UH Manoa, and they were there to catch my back in, and all the different challenges and the stresses. And it was in that balancing of both of school and work, like that rigor is so important, I think, for all of us as young people to understand, like, to have that balance and to not fear, to not be afraid of the unknown is really important, and to take on as you develop as an adult. Nobody's going to tell you to embrace fear, right? We're always like, at a young age, fear, we're scared, or we hold back, we don't question. um but being in on the unknown, sometimes it provides open doors, it provides opportunities. And the greatest thing of all, I think, as a young person, is that it creates a space for us to figure out who we are, or begin to figure out who we are, in the pathway we want to choose to go into, right? So my experience here, like, we've started at 5 acres, and I seen the farm develop to purchasing 11 acres, and then in another 8 acres, for about 17, I mean, about maybe about 10 years or so. The farm was about 24 acres. Yeah, so the where you see in this picture, this is um where we used to do morning protocol. So this is us doing ehomai, we because of social distancing, we aren't able to be in that space anymore, but we still do the practice. um but the farm has been managing about 24 acres, and we always knew the relationship of create we wanted to create deeper impact, right? So not just only grow food. So the farm expanded and got bigger, but we always wanted to deepen the impact of, like, what the farm does in its programs, in providing young people to go to college, and obtaining a degree, transitioning to a better job for themselves and for their family. So we wanted to take it to the next step. um, but to give you guys a little bit background, so Ma'o Organic Farms is set up as a social enterprise. Yeah, so we're a nonprofit organization, and our social enterprise is a collaboration of, like, our education space. So the internship is the space where you get hands-on experience. You learn about organic agriculture, and um, in that, people are held accountable to produce food. Yeah, and this is not, for us, this is not just providing stuff to take home. Like, we're here to, like, be a business, and to make money, to provide salaries, to provide benefits for our staff here. But it's in the connection of having young people to be a part of growing that food, understanding the nuances of, like, what it is to be held accountable, to be on time, to understand that there's going to be problems, but to be able um to be a problem solver and a critical thinker is all of is integrated in our programs. Yeah, and making it about more of a systems strategy in solving for a problem, right? um so this is our pathway. We call it our OY, right? So OY is like, in traditional, in Hawaiian practices, always, like, where a channel of water is being moved from one place to another. Yeah. So our OY usually starts with our farm to fork program. This is where we have usually we have visits from K to 12. We've been closed for the past closed to the public for the past 12 months, so it's been really hard to continue to integrate. But we did transition from not people physically coming to the farm, but to do things over um, the virtual space, right? So trying to do a garden workshop online. We had to adjust, yeah. But usually it starts with our farm to fork program. Then we have our high school internships, where high schoolers, like juniors and seniors, will come for a week, and they learn about what we do on the farm, and they're integrated into all the processes that we do. Then if they transition, then they become a youth leadership training intern. And there's other OYs to where, if people are really interested in food systems and in agriculture, there's a pathway for them to have a job, a sustaining job here with us. And there's other programs that are in that space now, creating more jobs in agriculture and food systems or food policy and such. um so because what I feel about, especially, there's a lot of um like school gardens and stuff, which is really really great, but the one thing that I feel so bummed out about is that we can build young people up and through their education experience from K to 12, like, oh, grow food, be in the garden, supply, help take this home to your family. And then when they get to college, like, there's no real pathway, or there's like a missed opportunities, or there's like they're not educated of the spaces that are offering things like this. So we're definitely a space. There's other programs like on the east side, like Ho'okua Aina, in Kailua, Monowili. They have a similar program like us, but they work with Windward Community College. So now there's more programs being built for young people if they're interested in agriculture or food systems, for them to be there. Yeah. Um, Another partnership that we did do was with UH. This is another pathway, just to put it out there. At UH West Oahu, there's a sustainable community food systems program where it's like integrating agroecology. There's a lot of hands-on work in the garden there. They work a lot with other local farmers, or learning about policy. But it's really a way to integrate um, agroecology with like the Native Hawaiian knowledges and sciences and practices in a hands-on learning experience and a university. Yeah, so it's one of those things that we were able to help create with the partnership with UH. um, some of our outcomes that we've had. So we have graduated 120 young people with their associates, 43 with their bachelors, and 3 students actually were able to get their master's degree. Yeah, so this is the outcomes we wanted to um, deepen, right, or to expand, because it's so important for our young people, especially in the Waianae community and in all communities, is that a key way to move out of poverty as a community or as a family is to be educated. Yeah, and like to be challenged and to understand um different ways of like how to get to that next step out of there. Yeah, to support our families. Yeah, and to be healthy in all spaces. um we've also had a health outcome study, our Maliola study, which is, we can talk about getting degrees and producing food, but then what about the internal health of our people, right? So understanding, so in this health study, we were able to um, get all the we were able to test everyone's A1. Oh, the people in the study were able to test their A1Cs and all their health parts of their body. But we also did a, um, poo sample of these students, and over a year's time, there was the results was that, we're looking at people who are to check up for type 2 diabetes and stuff like that. And over 1 year, we've seen that their 1 year experience with the farm, just because being physically on the farm, taking home veggies to eat, having more greens in their diet, 60% of the people in the study kind of lessen their lifetime risk of obtaining type 2 diabetes. Yeah, so the importance of having that space of being in that physical space, but then working on the internal, like checking our guts, right, checking our gut biomes and developing our gut biomes to match the soils, right, to match the parts of the plants that we work with is super important. Yeah, so for the past, from 2000 to about 2016, we were looking for spaces to we wanted to create more impact. Yeah, and so we've been farming 24 acres of the farm, really limited to, expand, um to kind of to expand the business. We need more land, so we were looking for spaces for us to do that. Yeah, so we've went on a venture, and now we're in our Ma'o Ma'ona expansion um movement, our plan. And what we wanted to do is, create a to have a space in our community and for our young people to reach this Ma'ona. Yeah, so like this fulfillment, this satisfaction, this place of like, oh, we're getting there. Yeah, so and we were able to purchase, so this little purple spot here, this is where we're in, and this orange spot here, we are expanding. This is where I am at right now physically, up here, the 24 acres, but we purchased 257 more acres of land, yeah, in hopes to um, in planning to, not just only hoping, but in planning to support more young people to go to college, to grow more food for our community, and for Oahu, and to deepen all parts of what leadership looks like for a community. Yeah. So this is just some views of the Aina. This is the site that we're calling Palikea. There is a um pu'u over here called Palikea, so we named it after Palikea. But the integration of young people is so important in, I think, in a sustaining food system, right? It shouldn't just be, the average, I think the average farmer right now in Hawaii is of like 65. So the average of our farm right now, because there's so much young people, um
Oh, you went on mute.
oh, did I go on mute? Okay, I'm sorry, guys.
No
But yeah,
worries.
the integration of having young people is super critical, right? So um so this is like, he's a HIOT intern. This is Des. He helped to clear up some of the Palikea Aina. Um there we go. And and this, in a space to continue the continuity, we still have to go and practice our traditional practice, right? So this is just a picture of us on our Pule Aina, to bless the Aina, to bless the intentions, to bless the people, and to acknowledge the traditional space of what that Aina did before, right? So in Luolole, in this space particularly, there's a lot of Hina and Maui stories, where Hina dried her kapa cloth, where Maui captured the sun to slow the sun down, and so many other stories. Yeah, to honor and acknowledge the traditional mo'olelo, and the people of our space is super important. Yeah. Yeah, so this is some of our young people planting ulu. Yeah, to plant a tree is thinking about the generations next. Yeah, so when you plant a tree, it's really not for you, it's for somebody else in the future. Because a ulu tree can provide food for like 4 to 6 generations, and that's the planning, the visioning that we want to have, that we continue to have at the farm, is that incorporate young people, and to always think for the future. So see, here are some other of our guys. The importance of mentorship is a big key part of our program. So there's a lot of um, maybe like a manager or apprentice to intern mentorship, but there's also tons of peer mentorship where interns are teaching each other, interns are supporting each other and challenging each other, and solving problems and getting work done together. Yeah, so Tyson is a sui in our program. He's managing a group. But when I talked about other like key points for me in developing myself as a leader and as a farmer, another kind of ololono eo that was taught to us on the farm, was from Auntie Kukui's grandmother, Kupuna, Catherine Monokil. And she said, Nehuli kalima I luna pololi ka opu, Nehuli kalima I lala piha ka opu. So when your hands are turned up, you're gonna be hungry, pretty much, right? But when your hands are turned down to the soil, you will be full. And you can take it really literally, but you can also take it in a metaphorical way. And it really ties into the love, respect, and the willingness to work, right? Like to have your hands down is to really, to think, to practice, to solve, to work together, um to lokahi. It's all those things, yeah. So um the nuances of weeding, you know, I have trouble weeding sometimes, but it's so important to weed, yeah, like in the physical space in a field, but to weed the things in our minds, yeah, to weed the things out in our lives, and to to weed out, really, bad habits is a good thing to do, and to keep like some of these things in the back of your mind or in your pocket or in your notebook, and to always refer to them. There's a different lesson that comes at every point of your life, right, as you develop as a young person, as a adult. Yeah, so this is actually on the Palikea, the 21 acres. So when you nahuli kalima ilalo, you're putting getting some work down, you can make fields that look like this, that just got planted, into looking like this, right? So tons of food, um that's going to our community, tons of food that's going to our families, and we want to do more, right? um to incorporate more of our traditional foods, right? So our mai'a, our kalo, um um our ulu there on the side. Um, so the next thing that I'm gonna kind of share right now is that um in our expansion of Ma'o Ma'ona, I really started to question or about coconuts, because we have some coconut trees when we expanded from the 5 acres to the 11 acres, and I had a really hard time like just opening a coconut. And I was just like, I was like, there has to be a right way. I mean, we've been eating from this thing for years, hundreds and thousands of years, right? As human beings. And this woman, Manu Meyer, is a beloved mentor and friend of mine. And then this is a friend of hers that she introduced to me maybe about a few years ago. And he grew up in Sri Lanka. His name is Indrajit. And he grew up with coconuts every day. He ate it for every meal, and he was bringing his love and passion for coconuts from Sri Lanka to Antimanu, and their colleagues at West Oahu. And I asked her, I was like, I asked him, I was like, how do you open up a coconut? And he came here one day, and we did like it ended up being like a 5-hour workshop of like everything about coconuts. And it, from opening to eating to looking at the different varieties, and I was just blown away, right? And then as a native Hawaiian, in Waianae, like there's mo'olelo about a famous new grove in Poka'i Bay, right? And it was an ali'i from Tahiti that brought the coconuts, and then he just planted a massive grove on the west side of Oahu and Waianae. And his coconuts was known to be like the biggest and the sweetest, and like hearing these stories like at Waianae High School and doing a little bit research in college, I was just like, and then now I'm just like, where are these coconuts? Where is that knowledge? um and it's food. It's like, why aren't we growing it more? Why are we um cutting the coconuts off of the trees that are in our public spaces? There's coconut trees everywhere in Waikiki, and it's become more of a ornamental for tourism and not something practical to feed people. We've lost that practice, we've lost that knowledge. And like, I started to have all these questions, right? So like, tying back into like self-sustaining food systems, it's like they're like, it's nothing new. Yeah, pun intended, it is new. Yeah, with the puns intended, it is new. And the new knowledge, right? Like, we don't have to look for anything like the new technologies, um and a new system. We just have to remember, like, our kupuna had these all set up for us to think in generations beyond them. Yeah. So as I started to question all of these, had all these questions and revelations, I was just like, man, we need to grow more coconuts. Because one, I love coconut water, I love the coconut meat. You can cook it in and put it in everything. And it's universal. You use every part of the new, right? You can use it for all kinds of things besides food. And it's literally, for Indrajit, it's the palm of life. for him. As we have a same relationship with Haloa, with Kalo, his relationship is like that with Niu. Yeah. So understanding like there's all these relationships and these knowledges that is already there for us, yeah. Like the book is there, but we just gotta open it up, yeah, or ask someone to help us like they refer that book to us, you know. And in our spaces, as especially all the young people here on this call, don't lose that, you know, and to continue to search, you know. So like now I'm 32 and I have this revelation about coconuts. It's gonna come up at you in different ways, in unknown ways, but to be open, right, to love, respect, the willingness to work, to the willingness to learn is so crucial, in like how we heal our food system. Yeah. So we went out and um he started to make a new nursery for us. Yeah. So he was collecting coconuts from all over Oahu, and he started with the practices that he learned back home. He started making a nursery for us. And with this, when we're harvesting here, we picked it up from his hale up in Palehua, and we were able to collect 200 new from him, which is absolutely amazing for us. And we're able to plant about 167 of them. Yeah, we still have the rest, but we're still adjusting some of the spaces on the new land. But planting those coconuts, to me is my statement to what our food system should be, right? So bringing the coconuts back to Waianae, bringing the coconuts back to our people. And then this is not it, right? We have to relearn about how to use the coconut, every part of the coconut, relearn about the different varieties. Yeah, as there are different varieties to kalo, to ulu, to sweet potato, there's different varieties to coconuts. Yeah, so we have to relearn these knowledges and practices. And um it's always developing, yeah, and redeveloping as a leader. As you guys become young leaders in in your families, in your community, in your food system, we always have to be able to adapt and to be able to work together. Yeah. So this is us collecting them. So happy to collect the new seeds. um and so for us, we're having a ulu new project. Yeah. So here you can see the ulu, and we're integrating some new, because there's ulu is to me is amazing. I can't, like, there's no words to describe ulu, but it is needed in our community because it's this amazing food source, right? And to integrate two of our traditional foods, um you know, if they go well together in dishes, they grow really well together as well. um so to have this along our fence line, you know, so the intention here is like for us to like harvest and to sell to our co-producers, to take to the farmers market, to put it in our CSA box. But because it's along the fence line, and where our the polykill sites are, is actually right next to and neighboring the US naval base in Lualole. Yeah, so about 7,000 acres the naval base is occupying, and we're neighbors with them. Yeah. So to be on the Lualole Naval Base Road, and to grow traditional foods like this is a statement in itself. Yeah. And to share the verdant, the buntu. So when people come up that road, it's not like, oh, gotta go to the base. It's like, no, there's food here. It's because our aina is momona, our aina is is um is rich. You know, the soil is rich. We can grow food. You know, there might be a few rocks here and there, but we can grow food. Yeah. So to change the narrative is a super powerful thing. um you know, coming from the Waianae community, there's a lot of stigmas, a lot of stereotypes that I grew up with, you know, coming and to in the end, what i I made a decision for myself and with some of my peers and with the people here is like, that's not our narrative, you know. So to have narrative sovereignty is super important for you as an individual to tell the story that you want to tell. Because if you don't tell your story, um or or do research to understand your story, someone else is going to tell your story. Yeah. So be able to um and that's about you know, we can do the physical things of farming and growing food, but if there's no context, no intention, no deepening of why you're growing that food, um it then it becomes like having a relationship with your food and how you grow it is super critical to me in understanding how we're going to heal our food system, right? Or create a more sustaining food system. Um it's 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 the incorporation of the generations, whether it's kupuna and where it's kupuna, makua, and the opio, right, the keiki. It's all of those things. Yeah, it can't just be a 65-year-old growing the food all the time. Yeah, you guys should be growing food, I should be growing food, you know, our elders should be growing food. And there's just different levels of it, right? So there's the kupuna could be like the mentorship, you know, maybe doing some of the visionaring, the visioning, but then the visioning should be always incorporate the youth, you know. And to make sure that we get to those spaces is super important, you know. So more ulu and more new going in the ground, more of our young people being a part of the work, right? It's not just me doing all the work, it's the young people. We were inspired, so we did a little new nursery for ourselves. So this is actually new from some of our trees that we have on the farm here. So the trees here are about 10 years old now. No, maybe, yeah, about 10 years old ish. And they now, and we collected some of the new seeds and learned from Indrajit to try and make our new nursery. So these are going to get planted in the ground, coming from us, right? So understanding like where our seeds come from, or how you obtain seeds and how you grow seeds, it's all a part of the whole system's planning and thinking and healing. Yeah. um so there's so many things, yeah, for us as a crew. I'm talking about all of us. It's like, so to develop young people that can be problem solvers, solution thinkers, and critical thinkers, like, it's a part of the work. It's that's a part of the food system. Yeah, it's not about understanding like, oh, I grab the seed, and that's not only about grab the seed, you put stuff in it, you put it in the soil, you put water on it. There's so many things that, as a farmer, for me, that I've now been a farmer for about the past 14 years, um the biggest challenge is that it's about adapting to the unknowns and adapting to the things that you don't plan for. Yeah. And that has taken me in so many different ways, um in my space here on the farm, but even in my personal life, right? When we could go traveling, like there's just, and I did presentations at other places before. um there's so many things that happen that like, I'm so glad that I experienced on the farm that I could do for myself, you know, in different spaces. So um to create visionaries and community planners and thinkers, you know, this is us taking the crew on a hike to in the back of Nanakuli Valley, and to see their home in a different space is important too, right? Because you need to makavalu. Yeah. So the makavalu part is like the eight perspectives, right? Or the multiple perspectives of understanding a problem or situation or an idea. We always have to makavalu. So to take our young people to see it from the physically a different perspective, from the top down. But so like, this is just a lesson of like understanding, like when you face something, you know, or you have an idea, we should always have these, um always be able to plan and to challenge ourselves, right? Like what you think might be working for you might not work for another person. You know. And if you want to heal a system, we have to we have to find what's the best for the middle. You know, there's going to be cases that are extremes on both sides, but understanding like we are here for the people, and here for each other. Yeah. um and then another Another mentor of mine also reminded me that one of the things her mentor told her was that we are the link between two eternities. So for me, or as us as individuals, like, we come with 40,000 ancestors, right? And we will leave 40,000 and future ancestors after us, you know um so the things that we do now really make a difference, as sometimes maybe we might feel our contribution is small and might not make a difference. It really does. you know and owning that, owning your narrative, owning the knowledges and practices, and owning the um the things that come with you through your families, owning all of that will help you to develop your leadership, and understanding, like, you being here, you're already a leader, you know and it's just finding ways to develop that and um to malama that, because we all need to malama ourselves, and in many different ways. Yeah. um so to This is a in the beginning I showed a kind of like a mural with Solomon Enos, that he did when he first started. About a month ago, we invited him back and worked with him, and he did a mural with him. And it's like there was like the mauku hauhau, right? Our genealogy to the farm of for me, seeing like, oh yeah, our ancestors are watching, and then to actually be a part of this mural, to paint the colors, to understand, like, this is just it's still just the beginning, and the continuity is so important, of the passing down of knowledges, of practices. So um to know that we all come from Po, right? And that we all share, like, we're all the same people, just experiencing different things. um and to respect that, to love that, and to have the willingness to adjust, the willingness to work. We'll continue to develop this. So, you know ideally, when you would come up to the farm, this is the first thing that you would see, to welcome you into our farm, to make sure that Papahana Moku is, like, knowing that you're on Papahana Moku, and that there's Hina here in this valley. It's all represented in this mural, and so many other things. Some of our young people here, I'm just gonna kind of close off, because I really would love to, like, have some questions or engagements with you guys, because I'm really here for you. I just really want to share my old story. Um, you can find us at the farmers market. There's some of these guys today at the farmers market now. So there's Waianae Farmers Market, Purridge Farmers Market, and we're at the farmers market at Kaka'ako. They're all on Saturday, from 8 to 12. So go check them out. Check the veggies out. So we do grow things from salad greens to kale to Asian greens like bok choy. We have herbs like cilantro, parsley. We bring bananas. We bring kalo. I know kalo is still in the ground, so we brought more kalo and luau leaf, breadfruit. So yeah, we want to bring the diversity of, and show the diversity of food that Hawaii can grow, right? So if we can do it, everybody else can do it. um, Let me see. Oh, and it's just a little. You can, if you guys, there's Ma'o is on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. It's the handle. If you guys want to email me, like, personally on the side, that's my email. That's our website, maorganicfarms.org. So if you want to check out more information about the farm, you can go there. And yeah, just really excited that I get to talk to you guys and kind of share my own story, but to understanding, like, or to have a different perspective of what a self-sustaining food system is, right? It's not only about, to me, it's not only about the growing of the food, but like the development of people, right? And how you develop leaders to problem solve, to be visionaries, to be to heal families, right? To me, that's what growing food is all about. It's about supporting and healing families, and if you can incorporate traditional foods into that, it's even better because we are in Hawaii, right? Or I think our lands are crying, or they're yearning, not crying, they're yearning for the growth, more growth of our traditional foods like kalo and ulu and wala, so we want to do that. Yeah. And yeah, so I'm gonna stop share. I know I have space to 10:30. We can end early, but I really would love to see um any or answer any questions, all that stuff. uh, where do we go from here, guys?
Yeah, mahalo for that presentation. We could definitely do some Q&A if anyone wants to ask some questions.
I see a question in the chat that I don't want to get lost. This comes from Samantha. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to start a learning farm or a farm with a sustainable and education-based model similar to Ma'o?
Yeah. um so I think for me, like in just my experience, I think it's there needs to be a practice. It's really hard. Like, I think we it's like practice. I think in these kinds of situations, like practice before theory, before theory before practice. Because we've seen just in Hawaii's history, especially recently, people are like, oh, we're gonna have a 500-acre ranch, or we got this much land and we're gonna grow this much food, and it's just a plan. you know I think in spaces like this, like, you gotta do something. So um when Ma'o first started, and that was in 2000, so it was a little bit before my time. It was just grow something, just put something in the ground and see if we can sell it, and just like keep doing that. And then one, two, three, four young people started to get involved, and it's like, oh, their involvement with the farm helped us to create, like, okay, what's the next steps for these young people? Let's see if we can get a partnership with Lever Community College. Yeah. And that had its struggles with its alone, like, you know um making it as a being accredited and stuff like that was really hard for the farm. But it took the young people to put into action, and showing that they wanted to go school, and finishing school changed the dynamic. Yeah. So if another partner that we have, like I spoke about, Ho'oku Aina. So they was just this was just a family that was trying to just restore Lo'ikalo. um and their lo'i kalo is different. It's not through awa, it's a spring fed lo'i. And it was just a family, and they just had communities and friends come over and help restore kalo patches. And then they started growing kalo and started to supply community, started to sell community. And then here comes a young person involved and just wanted to reconnect with their roots or understanding of lo'i kalo. And they started just having an internship program, and it wasn't tied to Windward Community College yet. But then um all of a sudden it did, because they reached out to us, and because they had a practice, because they had a program, it made it more valid, a little bit more. There was a pathway set up, right, that Alwai was beginning to set up. um so starting a farm can be very challenging, because having a space to do it will be hard, to actually maybe learn how to do it. We have small programs here over the summer called our FE'e program. um what is it, farm expansion externship. So it's like a 10-week program here that we host, and it shows like how we farm. And it's a 10-week program over the summer. um so if people are interested in learning how to farm, it's more of a high intensive program. So it's like probably post high school, have some kind of job experience. Doesn't have to be an ag, but if you are really interested in ag, that would be a great opportunity to learn. There's programs like the um what is it called, Go Farm program, where you can sign up, and then you get to learn all it's like hands on, and you learn all the ways of how to manage a small plot of land first, and you get all these lessons of how to grow food, the equipment you need, the resources, the relationships. So there's those spaces that could help, you know, do that. The tying of like the education and the farming is has always been a challenge for a lot of programs. But I think if you start off small and you have a practice, and then you start scaffolding, to do it all one time is really, I think what I've seen, it has been really challenging, you know. But if you have something to like build up on, then it becomes a little bit manageable. You know, you start developing as a person, as a leader, as a planner. Yeah, but go for it. If you want to do a small farm, I would recommend looking at some of those other programs. I can look up other programs too, to and send out, so you guys have access to those as well. But yeah, if you want to plant, just plant. So,
Mahalo nui. I see another question. How can we get this kind of thinking and practice into our schools?
ooh, yeah, that's what we need, right? um for a little while, we were involved with the school gardens at Waianae Intermediate and Waianae High School. And I was still in high school when Ma'o was still small, was still 5 acres, but they're involved because it wasn't as big in the production and supplying um part yet of where the farm is, like how the farm is now. Like there was still a lot of interaction with Ma'o and going to the high schools and the intermediate. And there's a lot of things that came up through it. I think what became hard was like we wanted to do certain things, and then the DOE system made it kind of challenging for us to do. So that's why we kind of created the Farm to Fork program, because we wanted we um we felt that having young people come to the farm, like it was like a little bit less barriers, there was a little bit less rules, so we could expose and teach how we wanted to, and it became more hands-on, you know. So I know usually there is a group of you guys that will come to the farm like once a year or twice a year, and like to us, like that was like the best scenario for us to do it. But you know, we also have a all white consortium meeting that we're creating, where we're really trying to engage the admin, teachers, counselors, hopefully principals of high schools, and even connecting people at the university system, right? Because if there's no connection or understanding of like where our teachers, our mentors are at, and how they can support our young people, um it's really hard to have that continuity of learning and experience, yeah, and understanding. So I know we were working on our all white consortium for this year, but we might have another one later in this year. It would be it's just been really hard with the pandemic, because you know, would love to have people come here, but we're gonna try and do it in a virtual space this time. And it might be an opportunity for us to like, hey, it works out. Maybe let's start extending it to other farm to fork programs or other school garden programs, you know, so that they can be, because to me that's a part of the OI, right? Whether it's with our programs, farm to fork programs or not, if other schools are, or if schools are doing a kind of school garden program, maybe they should understand, like, or have an not understand, have an opportunity to know like where's the pathways, right? How can people continue, and like what is the expectations, you know, what is what are we holding our young people to, so that the transparency is a lot more clear, you know, there's more clarity of understanding, okay, this is the next step where I want to go, you know. So those developments are, as those spaces are developing for us, we would love to share those spaces with the school garden crew and stuff like that. What is this? I see this question. Is Ma'o able to be more self-sustaining in terms of inputs, how soil is continuously fed. Oh yeah. Oh, compost. Yeah. Um, yeah. So some of our inputs, that one of the main inputs that we have on the farm, for because our soil is a classified vertical soil. It's lulule vertical soil. It's naturally high in phosphorus, so there's very little phosphorus, like none phosphorus inputs that we put in into our soil. So that's why we can grow roots really well, like the beets, the turnips, the carrots, the radishes, daikons. Some of our trees can do fairly well because phosphorus is really good in like the kind of root development of the trees and stuff like that. So the big thing in our soil that we're missing out on is nitrogen. There's actually a local plant called Baker Commodities, and um they're a recycling plant, but then they kind of take up all the leftover fish and stuff from the butchers or restaurants, and then they cook it. And it's mostly fish guts, so they go to like they collect the fish guts and bones. They might get some pork and beef stuff, and then they cook it at high temperature, and they kind of grind it down, and then it becomes like this powder source. And it's actually here, we can source it locally at Campbell Industrial, but they so it's a local source of fertilizer for us. And it's actually certified organic too. They got it because we're at some point we were buying so much of it. I guess we just asked them like, oh, you think you can get it certified organic? Because our certifiers are asking us, oh, it's not organic, but we're like explaining to them, but it's a local source, so we don't have to import a lot of our inputs and stuff like that. And I think my boss, like Uncle Gary, just asked him like, "Oh, you ever thought about getting certified organic?" And like they got certified organic, so it's like it's organic, local source of organic nitrogen for us to feed our soils. Most of the stuff that they actually create at this plant is actually getting exported. So it's like, if more of our local farmers knew about this stuff, that would be definitely helpful in its and its way to like self-sustain for our inputs. In building compost, right now we have just a small compost pile that helps to manage all of our green waste from our processing shed. um and it's not enough, man. And like how much fields we're trying to plant, how much we'd love to how much of compost we'd love to put in our stuff into our fields, is we just don't develop enough of it. And it's time consuming. It takes some time to break down things, and like to make compost and stuff like that. So what we've done is we can source from like and other local seed companies for sun hemp. So cover cropping is super critical to our organic practice and operations. So cover cropping is like a sun hemp is a well, it adds nitrogen to the soil, so it's a green way to add nitrogen. It takes the nitrogen out of the air and puts it back into the soil. We rototill the greens back into the soil as well from our fields. So if there's leftover greens, we till it back in, and it builds back up to it adds to the organic matter into the soil. So yeah, there's different ways of doing it. There is some things that we have to import, um but we try to source it from local companies that are providing the stuff. So try not to outsource from outside companies. There's like there's like companies that help to provide organic inputs that we can add to our soil.
I think we have time for
That's
a
great.
few more questions, and I think the one that I just got private message to me is very important. If you can you please speak to how COVID has changed your operations during the past year and looking ahead, especially since we're all in this time of changing how we do things? How has Ma'o adapted to our current situation? Because obviously we had to change our We Grow conference to Zoom. So what have you guys done?
um for us in the physical space on the farm, like to follow the COVID and CDC guidelines, we've make sure that we hold everyone accountable to wear mask, to to physically distance the 6 feet as much as possible. So in our processing shed, we adjusted some of our sink spaces so people can stay distance and all that. Um, a big part of having the pandemic come on us is that we were a very community oriented farm, right? So we had visits every week. We hosted events on the farm that could bring community together and to bring families together. So that has been a missing part for us, but it helped to develop different ways of how we reconnect, right? So hosting meetings over Zoom or having webinars has been um new to us, and it's new to everybody. I mean, we got a little bit into the groove of it, but it's different, right? Because it's there's nothing to me um just being in someone's space and feeling their energy and understanding those things, um or if getting that vibe off of people is super important in how you develop yourself and how you develop your relationship, how you communicate with each other. In terms of like for the farm, we were anticipating like just growing more food anyway, so we planted like tons of food in the beginning of 2020. And then when COVID shut down Hawaii, or pretty much the whole world, when we everyone kind of had to shut down, we lost a lot of our restaurant accounts. um so in our sales, about a third of the sales are coming from restaurants. We had farmers markets and wholesale accounts with our co-producers like Whole Foods and Foodland and other grocery stores, smaller grocery stores. And then so farmers markets, and then we had a CSA program, which is like a weekly box subscription where people sign up and they receive a box of vegetables from the farm. Um, and during the time of, so all the restaurants shut down, so it's like, whoa, like sales went down. But then we seen, because everyone had to stay home and cook at home, um more people, luckily, the farmers markets were kept open, because we had some pretty um hard ass people um who managed the markets to make sure that they followed all the guidelines and such like that. So our farmers market sales doubled in the matter of like 2 weeks. And it was just like, whoa, what the hell happened here? So we just like, and then our CSA program. So before COVID, we were doing maybe like 80 boxes a week to people who signed up for our CSA program. And then it tripled in like a month. And we're like, this the demand went up really high for our retail sales through farmers market and our CSA program. Um and we wanted it. We wanted to feel that way, to feel challenged, because that's what it is. Like, we wanted to feel what it was to feed Hawaii, to feed Oahu, because we're importing so much of our food still yet. um People have been more lax, or they have that space to make those decisions to buy food from somewhere else. Yeah, but when you're forced to buy local, or you start thinking about your decisions of who you support and how you support, it changed for everybody, not just us, but lots of local farmers. um there was a ramp up in demand but no supply. And so if we don't have enough acreage in agriculture production, then we can't grow food for our community. So that's why our expansion for Ma'o was so critical, and it was just the right timing. Fortunately and luckily, it was really the right timing that we actually had the food planted that we could supply. Because if we didn't have that land, and the demand still would have went up, but then if we didn't have the land, we wouldn't have had all that food, so we wouldn't have been able to supply to our communities and to our families. Yeah. So seeing that, like, it ramped up our sales, but it ramped up our production and our understanding, like, oh, this is our next level, and this is how we must plan um in our expansion to grow more food, to provide more food to our people. Yeah, so it definitely like having COVID definitely challenged us in how we provide food in our operations. Frequency of planting, our development with our co-producers, of how we supply food for them. The continuation of like how they share our story. of how the food is grown and who is growing the food, I think is has been key lessons for us, for me, through COVID.
Okay, we're at 10:30, so I think we're gonna move on to our break. But mahalo for sharing all this with us. It's been a great presentation, and thank you for answering all our questions. And I will see everybody in 15 minutes.
Sweet. Thank you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kau'i. Mahalo.
Thank you.